Welcome to our first ever devlog for Elestrals Awakened. Now, I'll be honest, I'm new to this whole kind of thing. I've never made a video game before, but we did take Elestrals Awakened to Kickstarter last fall, and we set the record for the most amount raised by any video game in 2025. So there's a little bit of pressure, but we're working hard to create an awesome game, and I'm going to use this video format to tell you guys the things that we're working on week to week, give you updates on the game, a little bit of behind the scenes, and show you a perspective that really only I can as the guy creating Elestrals. So strap in, we're gonna have some fun. Like the video and leave a comment down below of any kind of stuff you want to see in future videos. But otherwise, I'm just gonna ramble and we're gonna have a fun chat here and talk about some of the cool things that we're working on in development. So the first thing I want to talk through is some of the new Elestral designs being implemented into the game. We've got little soul stocks here, which is awesome. We decided coming out of the Kickstarter, our number one priority was to take all of the Elestrals that have ascensions that are, already in the game that maybe we haven't, modeled or sprited their ascensions, and work on getting those finished. And then any Nexus forms of the Elestrals, we want to finish those too. So when an Elestral has a Nexus form, we're prioritizing those Nexus changes. So we already had Lakagon in the game, so we decided to put Drataya and Latagon in the game. So we're working on all those different models, and they look amazing, by the way. Really stoked on that. Dratora and Lustragon also being done in terms of sprites, and then again finishing up some of the different ascension lines. So Blazerus is now finished, as is Trifernal. So all of these Elestrals have been sprited now by our team, and their stellar versions are sprited as well. We ended up changing our workflow to ensure that the stellar versions always get sprited alongside the regular Elestrals, and we're going to be implementing those into the game very soon. We've also got, Like a Void, Amp Up, Like a Volt, so we finished those up. Majursa was another one that we finished to kind of bounce off of that. Theraheart and Posthumous is work in progress now. So again, we're working to kind of build all of these different Elestrals out, and there's quite a few animations for each one, so it does take a while. I would say the average one of these sprite sheets for a pixel art can take anywhere from 10 to 20 hours for an artist. So it's quite a bit of work, but we've got a great team of artists that are chipping away, and we're making great progress to get to the full compendium that we're aiming for, which I think as of right now, we're sitting around 160 or so Elestrals, which is a pretty good spot to be. I think we were initially aiming for like 150-ish after, the Kickstarter success, and we've since ballooned a little bit up to like 160. I think as long as we don't pass like 175, we'll be in good shape. One of the big things that we want to always focus on is not scope creeping too hard, right? We want to deliver an epic game, but we have to be mindful of the choices we make because we want to be able to deliver a great adventure at the forefront of everything else, right? We've promised a lot of different experiences with randomizers and things like that. We have to make sure that we can do all of the things that we're setting out to do in development. So we never want to go too crazy in any particular thing and let scope kind of get away from us. So we're trying to be really mindful of those decisions to ensure that we can deliver upon, the core things that we promised on. One of the other things, one of our artists right now is focusing primarily on the casters. These are the characters that you're going to run into as you're traversing the region. We've got our Earth caster here finished up. I love this design. She's beautiful, and she's going to be one of the kind of characters that you run into early in the game. That's she'll show up as different classes, basically. So you might find, Earth caster, different names as the game progresses. So I think that's going to be really sick, and I'm going to show you guys more of those caster designs as we continue. But they start as these really cool like character concept sheets that we draw out, and then the spriters take it into a 2D sprite type of environment. The next thing that we've been working on is some different environmental pieces. So this is a big task for this type of a game. When you're working in the 2.5D world, you need to not only have the 2D sprites that we're creating with our creatures, but we also need to make 3D objects that can exist in the world. So we're actually working on bridges right now. We've got a couple different bridges. You can see them being implemented, and then, we obviously tweak them and adjust the models, and I'll share some interesting feedback from our art direction in terms of how we're modeling these and getting them to be ready for the game. And we're also working on like a stone bridge now, and these bridges are going to be different. We have to make a couple different ones because we're taking inspiration from Greek architecture, which creates a really interesting dynamic. And we want to make sure that it's relevant to the world that we're envisioning and the time period, but we also want to have diversity as you're adventuring the game, and you're not just encountering the same bridge model over and over again. So we're kind of doing some of the very basic stuff now, we're going to ultimately be modeling out all sorts of stuff as the game progresses. But this team has expanded quite a bit to be able to tackle all of these different tasks. So I'm excited that we have such a great network of people who already work for Elestrals on the TCG side that can kind of help out on this side of the project now. But also we've been bringing in additional team members to support the development, and it's going really well. The next topic is map design, and I don't have a ton to show on this front. We've been doing a lot of work in terms of the entire map, and I don't want to share too much, but we've basically mapped out all the locations that are going to be in the game that you'll be able to traverse, and kind of the different routes and towns and the story that kind of drives alongside that. But internally, our next steps are to build a tool that will allow us to build these pieces of the map out more effectively. So by building a tool that allows you to kind of and I'm not a programmer, so you have to bear with me, but kind of inject all the different models and tiles and pieces and then build it in that, as opposed to trying to build it piece by piece. There's some ways that we can kind of do this more fluidly, and it's been really interesting to see my team dive into some similar style games and watch devlogs from other games to learn and to make better decisions on how we can approach some of these things from very successful designers themselves. So I think that's really awesome, and I hope to share more on the map design over the coming weeks, but I think we're gonna basically take a little while to kind of get it to a good spot, and then I think the progress will explode because we're doing so much of the troubleshooting and stuff on the back end. We're basically setting the foundation to be able to build this world out in a really effective way. In just a few months, we're going to be heading to the World Championships for the trading card game of Elestrals, and we are going to have a demo situation at Worlds for our players. So players who are spectators or competitors of our TCG tournament will be able to play Elestrals Awakened early in Las Vegas. And one of the things that our team is preparing right now is controller support. It's my understanding that actually getting controller support in sooner than later is really worthwhile, because it becomes more complex to add later on if you're not kind of developing it as you go. So getting controller support in now is crucial, and it will also allow us to do those demos at events where you can sit down, you can sit with a controller and play on Steam basically, or ultimately Steam Deck, and the Nintendo Switch is where we plan to head to. So having controller support is a crucial step for us, and we're gonna have a really fun experience for people at Worlds to be able to play the game. It'll be a little bit built off of the existing pre-alpha that you guys are playing now. There'll be some new Elestrals in there. There'll be a couple different things that we're adding to it. It'll be a relatively similar experience, but enhanced, and I think the controller support will be kind of a really fun piece of that. The next thing that we spent a lot of time focusing on over the last week or two is moves and how Elestrals utilize these different attacks in battle. This came up because we ended up bringing out a new VFX artist who has been absolutely crushing it, and I'll show you guys some of the VFX that we're working on right now that are amazing. But one of the ideas that I had was like, what if the moves in Elestrals also evolved or ascended? So rather than an Elestral learning, Cinder Toss and then Flame Spit and then Eruption, what if Cinder Toss just turned into Flame Spit, which then turned into Eruption, right? Like, what if we had the moves evolving off of each other as well? And we explored this idea quite extensively. We even worked on doing some animations in VFX to see how this would work. How can we build VFX on top of each other? So an example I'm going to show you guys is Tremor, which is like a pretty weak Earth move that would maybe drop speed stat. And then you've got Seismic Break, which is obviously a more powerful Earth type move. Tremor would essentially evolve or ascend into Seismic Break, and then Seismic Break would ascend into Earthquake, which would be kind of the max power version of this move as your Elestral traverses on their adventure. And we were building out a system that was going to allow you to upgrade your moves and things of that nature. And then I'll be honest, we decided to actually put the brakes on that, and it kind of goes back to our earlier conversation about scope creep a little bit, in the sense that, one, I think the idea is cool, something for us to explore in the future, but I don't think it is worth us doing that when we can put that energy and time into building out a system that we were already planning on doing, which is the Spirit Cores. And to me, and kind of the conclusion we made on the team is, doing this move thing, which is, I think, is really cool. It gives a sense of progression. It does give a sense of growth of your Elestral, which I think is really cool. But we can take some of those ideas and this growth aspect and tie it to Spirit Cores, which are kind of like abilities, right? They're going to be like the Elestral's innate ability that are randomized when you encounter them, and they're gonna range, giving that Spirit Core more functionality or the ability to power up or more customizability or putting more energy into the system that we were already building. is where we landed and where we think is going to be better. We don't want to have too many gameplay systems that confuse players, right? The focus needs to be on the Elestrals themselves. That is who you're taking this adventure with. So we want to make sure that the Elestrals are where a lot of the cool functionality comes in. And while the moves having that ability to ascend, I was a big fan of the idea. I think we can accomplish something very similar without having it be a mechanic and just allow the Elestrals to learn different moves that do different things. So I feel pretty good about where we landed on it. It was something we spent a good amount of time debating, but I'm excited to kind of move forward and double down on our Spirit Core concept as we continue to build out some of the key features of the game. My next devlog, I'm hoping I can give you guys some footage of the randomizer mode being implemented in. Our team's been working on that alongside some other really cool gameplay aspects, but not quite ready to show them yet. So stay tuned and make sure you guys subscribe to the channel if you want to see more devlog updates for Elestrals Awakened. Don't forget, you can late pledge on BackerKit right now. This is really your last chance to get a copy for the game for less than it's going to come out when it releases. And you definitely should wishlist on Steam. We want you to wishlist. It's a big way to help us out. It's free. Just go wishlist us on Steam. And because this is the first episode of the devlog, I'll give out a few of the pre-alpha keys if you leave a comment and tell me what you're most excited for Elestrals Awakened. Thank you guys so much for watching this one. I look forward to keeping you guys updated, and I'll share more on our next episode.